It's Mermaid Minnow here today with a review of the Aquamermaid Aquaglitter Sequin Tail. Before we get started, there are a couple of quick disclaimers I would like to go over. One being that when I purchased this tail, I purchased it back in January of 2019. So it has been a year and a half since I purchased this tail. So some of the comments that I mentioned in this review might have changed since this tail was purchased. So some of the things I mentioned might be different now than they were back then, okay? The other thing being that when I purchased this tail originally, I hadn't planned on reviewing it. I didn't have a YouTube channel, had no plans of reviewing it, just was going to wear it. So let's go ahead and get started. So there's 4 categories I want to break this review down into. First one being, I want to talk about the overall ordering process of this tail. The next one, I want to talk about the aesthetic and looks of this tail, then the swimmability of this tail, and then my general comments about this tail. So starting off with the ordering process. So if you take a peek here on the Aquamermaid website, you can see here that the tail is fully customizable. There's tons of different options that you can choose to make your tail into something that you really want. So you have options to add on additional fins, different contouring, brushing, you can add an iridescent shine to the tail, and also a fringe belt and things like that. So there is a lot of customizable options with this tail when you purchase it. Another thing that I would like to note about the ordering process, and when I originally purchased this tail, this wasn't something that's on the website, but it is now, is that they do charge an additional fee for any extra large sizes, and they consider anything above 38 inches to be an extra large size. So if you are above a 38 inch, you are going to have an additional charge of $100 for your tail. That is something that I was charged, but originally wasn't communicated to me until either right before or as I got my invoice, which is a little upsetting at the time, or was a little upsetting to me at the time, but it is now on their website, so there is full disclosure for that. The mermaid tail is supposed to take, as it says, about 30 days to make. When I purchased my tail, I purchased it on January 4th, and it came to me on the 30th. So it took 26 days for the tail to get to me. So it took a little bit even shorter than that for the tail to be made. It was in January, and so that is kind of an off season for some tail makers, so that might have an impact on your ordering time, just something to be aware of. Another thing to note is that if you do want to rush the order, they can rush orders, make it made between 7 to 14 days, but they do charge you an extra fee for that. So when I ordered my tail, there was a lot of back and forth between myself and Marielle. We did talk quite a bit about my sizing, about what colors I wanted, and I did provide them when I originally got the invoice, and they included it in the invoice I guess whip, I don't really know, of kind of what I wanted my tail to look like. So you can see I wanted a silver and black tail with a gray fluke. So if you see my tail, you'll see that it is not silver and black. In fact, there's gold sequins on my tail. So what happened there is there was a little bit of back and forth between Marielle and I as she was showing me swatches of the fabrics, and in those swatches she showed me 2 different types of swatches for the different types of black. In that email she did say it was either number 1 silver black or silver black, gray black, or number 2 silver blue black. I chose number 2 silver blue black, but if you look at the picture of those swatches, that's not silver, that's gold. But in the email up on the top, you can see it does say silver. I did at the time think it was a trick of the light, that there was just the lighting that she was in made the color more gold, but as you can see, it's not a trick of the light. The tail is gold. So just take that as a little warning for yourself, not necessarily for Aquamermaid, but any tail that you buy. If something looks a little off on the tail, you need to be the one to make sure to stand up and say, hey, actually that color looks a little bit more gold than silver. Would you mind taking a picture in a different lighting, or whatever it might be, so you can see what it is. So that was on me for not saying anything about it. I was a little disappointed when I saw this tail, but it has grown on me. I do actually like the gold and silver, so it is a win in the end, but something to think about. Anytime when ordering a tail, make sure that you are very clear that you're getting exactly what you want, because this is your tail that you're buying. Moving on to the next section, I do want to talk about the looks of the tail. So as you can see, this tail is incredibly sparkly. So on my tail, I do have, it's the reversible sequence, which is something that's really unique, something that you don't see on many mermaid tails, specifically sequin mermaid tails, but you definitely don't see it out there a whole bunch. So even with sequin tails, there's usually just one color of sequins. So it is very unique in having the two different colors. And I do also have the pigments on my fluke in the silicone is a shimmery silver. So you can see there's little sparkles in the actual silver. And I did get the iridescent fluke, which was a free upgrade. I believe it still is free as well. But I really think that it ties it all together. So this tail shines. It's something that stands out in the water. It stands out in the sun. I mean, it grabs attention. So if you're looking for something that's really, really bright, then this is definitely a good tail for you. And with that extra, like I mentioned, with that extra iridescence on the tail, I really do feel like it pulls the tail together, and so it makes an extra beautiful look for the tail. One thing that I'm not a large fan about in terms of looks is the fact that the waist in the front is a drop waist. I don't like how it sits so low on my body. As a larger person, I would rather the tail sit higher up and be one full length than this drop waist that it has. But looks aside, how does this tail actually swim? So full disclosure, this tail doesn't fit me, straight up. So what that means is when I swim in this tail, the tail is actually falling off my body, which does create a lot of difficulty when trying to swim in the tail. I think it's important to note that in my measurements, I did compare them to my Mernation silicone tail, and the measurements are smaller than my Mernation silicone tail. But as you can see from this photo, if you put the Mernation on top, the Aquamermaid on bottom, the Aquamermaid is larger than my Mernation tail. So, you know, I'm not 100% sure what happened there. I don't know if it was the tailor that made a mistake or if it was me and my measurements that Mernation fixed. But there is some discommunication or some miscommunication between those two. So because of that, I would be very careful. I did have somebody else measure me. I did do everything I could, but maybe it's something that Aquamermaid should look into that a lot of tail makers do nowadays, is they end up having you send in a duct tape dummy or an outline tracing, something like that might be a good idea for Aquamermaid to prevent this happening in the future. So when I do wear this tail with like a little belt around it, kind of helping tie it up, it does swim a little bit better, that it's not falling off of me. But there still are some concerns that I have with the swimmability of the tail. So first thing being that inside the tail is an Aquamermaid monofin. So anyone who's tried the Aquamermaid monofin would know this isn't one of the strongest monofins. That is a little bit difficult because even though, the thing I love about this tail is that the tail has very thin silicone on the fluke. And I really like that because it creates a really pretty effect in the water. It's very flowy. And for me as a flowy mermaid, that's incredibly important. So it does create a beautiful effect, but the problem is the monofin isn't strong enough to combat that extra flow. So it does create some more drag in the tail with the fact that the monofin is not as strong of a monofin. So I would not recommend this tail to any beginner mermaids because you do need to have a decent level of swimmability to be able to really work with this tail. Outside of the monofin not being very strong, the monofin is also not encased in the silicone. So what I mean by that is that I can put my arm into the tail and have it be going down to nearly the tips of the tail. So the monofin is free in the silicone, so it can move up and down. It does create problems. You can't really see it in footage, but when I'm swimming, I can feel the monofin hit the top of the silicone in the top of my kick, which is, again, that's going to cause more drag. Another thing with that is that there aren't any drainage holes on the fluke itself. So any water that's going in while I'm swimming into the fluke is getting trapped in there. So that is going to create more drag there too. The last thing about the monofin is the way that Aquamermaid's monofin is to adjust the heel straps of the monofin, you have to unhook the sides of the heel straps. There's like a little hook that you unhook. So on one side I can get it out and I can adjust it just fine. The other side, I don't know if it's because the monofin is too far in the silicone, the way the silicone is sewn to the piece of the tail. I'm not 100% sure, but I cannot get it unhooked on the right side of the tail, which means I can't properly adjust that side of the tail. I've done my best, but when I am swimming in this tail, my right foot does have a tendency to kick out of this tail. And anyone who knows, when you're swimming and your feet are out of the tail, you lose control of your tail. So that is a little bit of a safety concern for me because it should be fitting snugger. I could try wearing socks, aqua socks with this tail. I'm not a fan of swimming in aqua socks, but I could try, and that might be something that could help you, but just something to note because it doesn't work exactly like it's supposed to, and I'm not really sure why that is. Other comments that I did want to mention about this tail that I think are really important to mention that don't necessarily fit in the first three categories. One of the things is that talking about sequins, so you know, anyone who knows a little bit more about microplastics knows that the sequins are going to shed and they're going to be left because the sequins are so small that when I'm swimming I can't, and like checking afterwards, I can't find all of the sequins. You can see in this footage here, I'm swimming over sequins that I can't physically, you know, see them. That's why I just pass by them, and picking them up out of the water, since they are such small sequins, is incredibly difficult. So for that exact reason, I do not recommend this tail as a swimming tail, especially in natural bodies of water. You will not find all of the sequins that your tail sheds. So you really need to be careful and a little more conscious of what you are putting behind you when you're wearing this tail. It is a gorgeous tail in dry gigs. It would be beautiful for photos, beautiful for dry gigs, but in terms of swimming, like I mentioned, you would want to do it in pools, but be careful because you're not going to be able to get all of the sequins. Even when you're doing dry gigs, still be careful and make sure you're going behind you. You can use a fat flashlight to find the sequins and picking all of that up, because it is really important that you aren't putting more trash out there into the earth, just letting it sit there. So speaking more about sequins, that does lead into my next point, and that is that I am a little concerned about the durability of this tail. So I've mentioned a couple of things that play into this. First one being that sequins shed, so because of that, you are going to lose a lot on there. I did just notice while I was setting everything up, there are some fraying pieces of string already on here too. I'm pulling on one right now. So that is a little concerning to me, as well as the fact that there are some places that especially where this is sewn onto the fluke, that it's coming apart. So not so much, this is the back side of the tail that's right here, but so not so much here, but on the front side, there is a loose thread that is coming and pulling away from the fluke here. So I am actually, it is here as well. So I am a little concerned about the durability and how well this will stay actually attached to the fluke. Another thing in my durability concerns is that, and this is something that's normal with any silicone or any fabric tails, silicone tails, is that there is going to be a little bit of rubbing where your feet are standing in the tail. So when you stand up in the tail, you are going to rub a little bit. So you can see here that there is some rubbing that's already happening on the sequins, and since that is plastic, I don't foresee it holding up as well as fabric does. You can notice that it is the ridges where it is rubbing the worst, and the plastic is sort of, you can see the gold color coming through the blue, or it's kind of turning a white color. So something to think about as you are going to be, this is a little bit more fragile than fabric, so these sequins are going to rub off a little bit faster than fabric would. Bringing it back to the monofin and how it's encased in the silicone, it is incredibly difficult to dry this tail out. I myself put a fan over this tail. I put the tail over a fan, actually, is what I did, and put like a couple of little pieces of like chapstick to help keep this part open to get into the silicone to try and dry it. Then I dried it with a towel, and I'm still finding water up in this tail. And why that's a concern, anyone who owns silicone tails would know, is mold can be created from any residual water left in there. So I am a little concerned about mold collection if you aren't incredibly careful when cleaning this tail and drying it out, because it will keep water inside the silicone of the fluke. So something to be aware of. That lack of drainage holes is also contributing to that, because there is no airflow going through the fluke like there is with my Mermation that kind of pushes the water out and dries it up really nicely. And the last thing I did want to mention about the durability of the fluke is my zipper on my tail is already popping. So when I try zipping up the tail, you can see some of the teeth come up, and so I get little holes in the zipper where it's supposed to be connected. So I am concerned about, because I do have to go back down, pull pretty hard to go back over where that where their teeth are no longer together. So I am concerned about how that is going to last. And if I don't have access to this zipper, I mean, the tail is essentially rendered useless because it won't stay on my body. I would then need to completely re-tailor the tail so it was something that I could slip on. So I am a little concerned about that piece as well. As you can tell from the overall review of this tail, I am not the largest fan of this tail. The biggest piece of it is very difficult to swim in with all of its challenges, and the fact that it's just too big. It just doesn't do what I need it to do. So I'm not trying to come out here and say this is the worst tail that I've ever owned. It's not. So the reason why I wanted to do a review of this tail is because I want you to all be informed. And when you go and you search on Instagram or YouTube reviews of this tail, you can only find reviews on YouTube of the Aquamermaid Aquaglitter tail from Aquamermaid. So I wanted to have another opinion out there just so you can get a little more informed. If anyone else has this tail and would like to contribute their thoughts, maybe theirs fits better and they have some more thoughts about this tail, please do comment down below. I would love to add in any resources that you have, so when people are looking at possibly buying this tail, they can think about those things. And kind of get a different viewpoint as well, because like I said, we need to get more opinions out about this tail so more people know what they're going to be purchasing. And I also did want to get a chance to talk about this tail because I think it's something, I hope that tail makers are watching this video, because I think it's something that everyone can learn from, because I feel like as tail makers, you should be doing better. You should be doing things to help customers in their measurements, as Mermation does, as other companies does. I know Courtney Mermaid does this as well, and a few other tail companies where they do help you with measurements, because mermaid tail measurements are a little bit stranger than most measurements that you would make. So please do better. Please work on trying to get a tail that's going to fit all sizes, because as a plus size person, my measurements aren't normal. They're atypical. I got big thighs, big calves, and a larger waist, not a big waist, but a larger waist. So I do kind of have a different shape to me. So learning more about different body shapes and really helping people would be really great, because I want to see more people in this tail. It is a beautiful tail, you know, responsibly in this tail. Please, again, be aware of the plastic that you shed. But I do want to see more people because it is beautiful. So if you are planning on buying this tail, please do some research. Please message Marielle, learn more about some things that they might have changed. This tail is over a year and a half old, so things might be different now. Find a little bit more. There are some people you can find that have this tail. Reach out to them, ask them questions, and make a smart, informed decision when you're buying a tail. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have any questions or comments you want to leave, please go ahead and comment them down below. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel so you can see more reviews, more mermaid content here on my channel. So if you're not already as well, you can follow me on Instagram at mermaidminnow, and I am working on getting more social media out there, so when I do, I will let you guys know, and you guys can follow me there as well. So thank you for coming along with me on this journey. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!